for those of us, of a certain age, and when you're at a certain age, music gets into you. It stays in you. It becomes important to you. I think that this music that these guys have made for 50 years has stayed in us. It's important to us. It spoke of a time when things were really important, to say the least. I want to tell you about how we got this film, because it's a great story about Boulder and about BIFF. A number of months ago, I'm flipping through Facebook, and this thing pops up about this movie called The Immediate Family. And I look at the picture, and I go, I know all those guys, And I look, and I go, it's Denny Tedesco's new film. I immediately write to Robin. Robin, Denny has this new film. It's going to be great for BIFF. She writes back, all right, I'll get in touch with Denny. 2 days later, we get an email. Hey, BIFF, it's Denny Tedesco. I'd love to come back to Boulder. I got this new film. And to me, that's a great statement about what BIFF is, what Boulder is, and what our BIFF audiences are like. That this guy wanted to come back and see us. We really wanted to have all of the members of the immediate family here, but Cooch had back surgery recently. He can't travel, so he couldn't be here. Lee Sklar is out with Lyle Lovett. In fact, he's playing tonight with Lyle in Florida. When I hung out with the band in Aspen in December, we were talking, and Lee said, what's the date? I said, March 3rd. Oh, I can be there. I'll get on a plane. I got 1 day. And I'm like, no. We found out he was playing, but he would have gotten on a plane to come here and then turn right around and go back out on tour. Waddy would have been here, but he's getting ready to go out on a big tour with that pesky Stevie Nicks. We couldn't bring him here, but we are thrilled to have who is here. So if you would, hold your applause, because I want to introduce all these guys at one time. A real friend of BIFF, a guy who has brought us movies like the Tom Petty movie that we had a couple of years ago about the making of Wildflowers, Echo in the Canyon that Jacob Dylan came here with, the Jimmy Carter Rock and Roll President film, I Call Him Morgan, about the trumpeter Lee Morgan, and a film that's here at BIFF this weekend, My Sister Liv, also. One of the executive producers, Dan Braun, is going to come up in a minute. Our director, Denny Tedesco, for those of you that are aspiring filmmakers, this is only his second film that he's ever made. He set a pretty high bar. A guy who is a self-taught drummer. At 20 years old, he was already playing the Whiskey A Go-Go out in Los Angeles, and he became friends with Jimi Hendrix at the time. And a guitarist who has worked with John Oates, Eric Johnson, who's going to be at the Paramount on Sunday, Robin Ford. He's worked on Broadway. He's done a lot of film and TV music also. We are thrilled to have executive producer Dan Braun, director Denny Tedesco, drummer Russ Kunkel, and guitarist Steve Postel.
Dan, what? Oh, an X.
Go stand on an X.
Thank you.
Stand on an X.
X, 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 X. Oh, all right, move over. Yeah.
Check, yeah, hey.
This is amazing.
Sometimes I got the best job. Did you wanted to talk? Did you get a chance to talk before the film?
No. What I was going to say to you guys was, in 2015 when I came here, which was actually 6 years or 7 years after we did the festivals, which was amazing. That was the year we were released, and I started that in '96, Wrecking Crew, and coming here was like, it was like an oh my God moment, because it's like, I love this place, and I'm not bullshitting you people. You already live here, so you don't have to worry about, But what was extraordinary was, being a filmmaker, as you guys, there's some of the filmmakers here, you get to visit places. If you're shooting on location, you get to meet people, and that is the greatest thing in our business. And when I got to come to Boulder Film Festival, it was one of those places to go, God, I could live here. And I see why you guys live here. And my worry was I might never get back. So to be able to do another film, it was like, I gotta go back to Boulder. It was like will you please take me, ladies? You know, it was like, thank you so much and for all, these festivals mean so much to us filmmakers. You guys have to understand that. Many of us don't have distribution. And it's up to you guys, please, if you go see these films, there's so many great films that play here. If you like a film, tell someone. It's so important to Instagram, Facebook, or just tell your family members. Spread the word. That's the only way we'll find our way. If you don't like a film, don't tell anybody. So that's it. Your turn.
So, Denny, I want to start with you about how this film sort of came to be. I mean, you had made Wrecking Crew. For those of you that don't know, his dad was the guitarist in the Wrecking Crew, so you'd sort of lived that life around them for a long time. That film took you 20 years?
Yeah, 96 to 2015 before we filmed
20
it.
years to make.
Dad was passing away, as whoever saw the film, and I started that film in 1996. And as my wife Susie remembers, after 12 years, she said, "We just made the most expensive home movie ever." And we hadn't had a film yet, so it was the people that got us to the point where we made a film. We did it very well in the festivals, but it took so long, until another 7 years, to get it out. And it was very successful because of folks, you know, all the festivals. It was word of mouth. Once 2019 came around, the producers, Greg Reschlein and Jonathan Sheldon and Jack Pike came to me and said, "Would you be interested in this idea?" And I said, "Oh my God, I'm in heaven." Because it was all these names I knew. It's like, if you remember the Wrecking Crew, at the beginning I say, this is the story of my father and his extended family, the Wrecking Crew. In the end of the film, I asked Lou Adler, I said, when you did Tapestry, did you change your sound, you know? Because my dad and Hal were playing with him. He goes, no. He goes, Carole King brought her own friends in. She brought in Danny Kochmar and James Taylor. So it made total sense to jump into this project. And these guys had a band called Media Family, so it was like instant. I knew these names, like you guys know these names. And it's the greatest thing was, you got to realize, I met with these guys, we had a meeting, and I pitched my idea, and they said, great. The next day I got a call, and they said, Carole King said, she's in town in 3 weeks, can you do the interview? I went, oh shit. You know, I wasn't sure what I pitched was, you know, I didn't know the story yet. So it was like learning on, it was like, oh God. We know all the music, but you don't know a lot. And so I just jumped in and I learned as I went along. But if it wasn't for these guys, we would never be here.
We wouldn't be standing here.
No.
Yeah. Dan, I want to come to you and ask sort of what went through your head when you first either heard about the movie or saw it. Like, what was the thought that you went, oh, this will be a great movie? Because you obviously have a lot of experience.
Well, first of all, thank you. Good question. Danny, you just said something, and you said, in case anyone didn't like the movie. Did anyone didn't like the movie? Everyone liked the movie, yes? Okay, just wanted to clear that up.
Good point.
Because, yeah. No, it was, you know, because my brother and I worked with Danny on the Wrecking Crew. It was kind of a long project.
Yeah.
So when we heard about this, it was like, this is the perfect thing for Denny.
Yeah.
And it's also just a great idea, as a couple people have mentioned, like just the idea of it, to introduce people like Russ and these musicians, Steve, who you just see a name and you don't really know who is this person. So you get to see how these people relate to each other and the music they play. It's exciting, it's historical, it's just, you know, magical, frankly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we loved it immediately.
Steve and Russ,
No
you guys
pun
have Colorado history here with Caribou and with Aspen. If you would just take a moment and sort of let the audience know that you guys have roots here in Colorado. Steve?
I actually lived in Aspen for about 10 years because there was a fellow named T-Bone Woke who was a very incredible bass player, and he was musical director for Hall & Oates for a lot of years, and he said, you should go write with John Oates. He lives in Aspen. So I went there for a week and stayed for 10 years. And had a band called Little Blue, and we were John's backup band, and then we had our own band, and actually just was back just to see some of my friends last week and tried to ski again.
And Russ?
Well, I got to work at Caribou Ranch a few times with Dan Fogelberg on some albums up there, and that was really not my first time to Colorado, but my first extended time to Colorado, and I really enjoyed it being up in the mountains. But I also went there with Stephen Stills and recorded with him, and that's when I experienced my first bout with altitude sickness. Because it wasn't just the altitude that made me sick. It was lots of other things were going on, but
That was foggy too. Is that what you're saying?
It was foggy too. It's true. It is definitely. But yeah, it's fun being back here again. And by the way, thank you so much to the Boulder International Film Festival for giving us the opportunity to have this film play tonight. On the gala opening, and it just humbles us so much. Thank you.
So by looking at the film, I want to make sure I have this right, that the first 3 albums that you worked on were Sweet Baby James, Blue, and Tapestry. Like, that's how you started your career. Do you, or is that foggy?
No, I can remember that. Those albums, I played on those 3 albums in 1971.
Wow.
And I in an interview, I remember saying to somebody, if I would have stopped there, my career would have just been fine, just after that. So.
Yeah. So when you watch this movie and it shows your last 50-plus years, what goes through your mind when you watch this?
Well, first of all, it's difficult to be documented, and close friends of mine have told me when I've said that to them, you've done some great things in your career, and so when somebody decides that it warrants being documented, you should be grateful, and I am incredibly grateful to Denny, to Dan, and to all the producers and everybody that wanted to document us and let the rest of the world, know some of the things that we've done. So I'm very humbled. Yeah.
He's not kidding. Denny, would you talk about some of the similarities and differences between doing a movie like Wrecking Crew and doing this one?
Well, I mean, Wrecking Crew, I started in '96, and people said, how did you get it made? Did people fund you? I said, yeah, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, American Express, Capital One, and then they cut me off. So that was a big difference between being a self-funded film, the first one, and getting there, and then the success of that film helped us have producers that helped us get there. And Brian McCafferty is one of our producers, as well as Cliff Bernstein. It was the guys. They're all the same. There's so many musicians. To me, are the greatest. By the way, if I don't play an instrument, okay? If any of you think, oh, he must play guitar, I do not play guitar.
He plays the camera.
You barely. Don't give me the camera.
That's your instrument.
Yeah, I will be good at behind the scenes. But no, I have such praise for these guys. They're for me, they're the greatest musicians. Even the amateur musicians, you have all gotten to a place where you can do something that you love, and you do it for love. And that's where we should get to. If you make a living at it, awesome. But the Wrecking Crew guys did the same thing as these guys did. It was just a different time. The Wrecking Crew guys the business was different. It was only 3 hours. You had 3 hours, 3 hours, 3 hours. That's how you did a record. You could do an album in a day. And the record companies wanted it in a day. That was a totally different world. These guys the business grew. The musicians grew. They're different. But they're still musicians. And it's their love of music and love of each other that makes it work. So communication, that's what it's all about, is communicating.
Most difficult part about making this film?
Probably when Russ says times were foggy, and I thought, all right, I got to shoot that scene, don't I? And I'm remembering, as I was a kid of the '70s, we used to do get our pot, and we'd have to sift the seeds. And we'd have only double albums work on this, for any of you remember this. So, double LPs, you can't do this on CDs, folks, don't try it. The double LP, you kind of put the pot at the top, and you take your zigzags, and you sift through it, and seeds would roll down. So, we did it, but guys, as in Colorado and California, you could buy pot. So that was not a problem. But know what pot doesn't have? Seeds. You don't have seeds today. So I had to go reenact seeds and went to the flower shop and bought seeds and added those to the pot. So you kids out there don't know. We had seeds in our pot and our watermelon. So you don't know what it's like. We suffered.
So Steve, when you get asked to join this group after, I love your line of, no, I already know all the parts. We've been playing forever. What went through your mind and your heart when you get asked to join this group?
Well, it wasn't a joining thing. This was a totally organic situation. So basically, Danny and I had been playing together. I did a thing with Russ. I was playing with Leland and things. Waddy played on my record. And when Danny got this record deal, which Danny and I went to Japan with some guys, and he got this record deal. And we all got in the studio at Jackson Brown's studio to play. And I guess, I think we all just kind of went, oh, I guess we're a band. So it wasn't like, do you want to join the band? We all played for 3 days, and it was kind of an obvious situation. It was the most organic thing that's ever happened to me musically, that we've all had different relationships. Obviously, those guys for longer, but I knew Leland for 20 years. I've been playing with him, and then after 3 days, we were a band. Danny named it at the end of the 3 days, and that was that.
Russ, a question for you, that when I'm watching this film, and I noticed also that the audience felt this way when David Crosby came up, and there was, applause, and people were remembering David. As I watch this film, and I think of the people that aren't with us anymore, Kenny Edwards is in here. Don Grolnick, I think of your fellow drummer, Carlos Vega, too. And David Lindley just today passed away. I don't know if you know that, but David Lindley passed away this morning. I was sorry to read that. We had a couple of cameos. But again, I sort of go back to that. You were there for all of that as you watch this reflection, and especially with some of the people who are not with us anymore. And you're making new music. I mean, this is not just that's the nice part about this. This is not just a walk down nostalgia lane. You're making new music. So can you just sort of connect those two things of having this 50-year history, and you're still making new music? You're not out playing the casinos and playing the hits, so to speak? You're still being creative is kind of where I'm going.
Because of our great fortune to have worked with, like Danny says in the documentary, with all these great singer-songwriters and artists, we now have a chance to do what we're doing now, and if we didn't have the opportunity to work on their music and to play with them, we wouldn't be where we are. I mean, we owe everything to the people that we got to work with, because when other people were, working in bands, in clubs, and different things, we got to work with Carole King and James Taylor and Jackson Browne and David Crosby, and these are some of the giants of all time. So that's how it ties together. We were just so fortunate to work with them because it led us to where we are now.
That was a big difference between the Wrecking Crew and these guys. Wrecking Crew they never really played live. I mean, that was just not part of their thing. Not that they couldn't, you just didn't leave town. It was impossible. And these guys never stopped playing. And I think because they went in and out of the recording studio and then go live, then go back to recording studio, I think the longevity of careers, they never stopped playing. And I think that's the biggest thing. They still continue to play. So.
Steve, I want to ask you a question that I asked of Waddy and Cooch out in Aspen in December. Now that they're not here, I can ask you this question. The question that I asked of Waddy and Cooch was, you guys are very strong personalities. Denny puts that montage in of people talking about Cooch has opinions.
That was
there's no
easy,
doubt.
by the way.
And then that scene of Waddy going, "You're not going to put a fucking sax in here," all those guys who, like Lee, who go, "I just want to service the musician, what they want." And meanwhile, Waddy's going, "No, I'm running this session." So as the third guitarist with two strong personalities, how do you, low-key guy that you are, but great player, how do you fit into that? Were there times where you just went, "I'm just going to let them fight it out," and I'll,
There's definitely, I'm not going to spill the beans, but in my studio, there's times where you guys just fight. I'm going to go in the kitchen, and I'll come back when you work it out. But, well, Danny and I had been playing together a lot, so we had that. And I think the big thing was Waddy looking at me like, "So why is this guy in the band?" That took a second for us to go see what it was going to be. But the real interesting thing about us is that we all play a different kind of guitar with a different sound and a slightly different style, and it just sits together. So Waddy plays the Les Paul, and he's got his thing, and Danny's sort of a telly player with more of a funky kind of sound, and I'm playing sort of Paul Reed Smith types of guitar, playing more keyboard parts. And it just works. Matter of fact, there's a funny story. When we played Iridium, Keith Richards came, which was really thrilling for all of us. At the end of the show, he stayed the whole show, and he's saying goodbye to everyone. And he doesn't know me, so I'm sort of sitting back. And he starts going like this, and I'm looking around like
who's he talking to?
And he goes, no, you, come here. So I come over, he gives me a big hug, and he goes, "You know the only thing better than 2 guitar players?" I said, "What?" He goes, 3 guitar players.
Says a guitar player, by the way.
Dan, what's next for the film for people who want to tell their friends?
Yes, Dan.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, good question. So the first thing that's next is everyone is going to tell all their friends how amazing this film is. Now, I saw the film a number of months ago, and I saw it on a computer, and it was great. I saw it tonight with an audience, and it was fucking great. And that's the difference.
It is a big difference, guys.
This is a film that needs to be seen. It would be great, fantastic on Netflix, fantastic, but the communal experience with these songs, no replacement.
It is so much fun as a filmmaker to sit back and watch the person in front of you doing this. It is so much fun for me. And just think there were 800 people here tonight, or 880, whatever it was, which is extraordinary. Just think if they all told 10 people. You guys do the math. It's like, oh my God. Go please. Do the Instagram thing. Do the Facebook thing. We're at Facebook is, as I say, the website is immediatefamilyfilm.com. If you do immediate family, you'll find a family therapist. That's okay.
Well, kind of is
But
related.
Just work your way to the film or the band, but just that's all. You'll see all these outtakes. That's the best part about these movies. You shoot so much more. They can never make it in a film, and you just create outtakes. And that's the best part for us.
So one quick thing is, yes, the film, there's offers on the film. So the film you'll be able to see it sometime in the near future. I don't know when, but you can track it through Denny's Facebook page. Keep an eye out for it because it's coming your way and it's going to hit you hard. And it's coming.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We're coming back.
Let me ask Russ one more question. This week or last week was the anniversary of a release of a film that I don't think a lot of people know that you were in. And Robin, if you're still here, Robin's favorite film, all time, This is Spinal Tap.
Oh, wow.
And I'm standing with Stumpy Joe. from Spinal Tap. Do you remember working on that for the 1 second shot? I think that you're in.
Yeah, well, it was an honor to be a part of that film. Yeah, it was great. It really was. I was Stumpy Joe Childs. Was my name, and I died choking on someone else's vomit. Written by the great Chris Guest. It was awesome to work with those guys.
See, I don't mind asking you that question. It's film related. Todd, if you would get that first picture ready, the A picture. I want to show you something that Denny I showed when we were in Aspen in December. Like you guys, I'm a music fan, and when I was a teenager, I would take 3x5 cards to concerts, and I would write down the set list. We didn't have that internet, right? You wanted to remember what they played, you had to write it down. So I've got this collection of 3x5 cards. This is my card from the Jackson Browne Running on Empty tour the night before it was recorded, and I didn't know the song, so I wrote down 65, 17, 20, 69, 21, All right, show picture number B, if you would. Well, the opening act was The Section.
Wow.
And there's the band members that I wrote down.
Hamsters of Doom.
And this guy is standing on the Boulder Theater stage right now.
So who's the biggest geek here?
No, but like I said with Crosby here in 2019, you never know what's going to happen. I had that ticket stub from seeing CSNY in '74, and then I'm sitting right here with Crosby. And I would say the same thing here, and I'd say the same thing for the music fans that are here. And speaking of Crosby, this is how I want to end. You guys know that Crosby was here in 2019 with his biography. Steve, you had a very close relationship with David, and if you would sort of tell the audience where you were supposed to be last week.
Well, about a year ago, David and I have known each other about 30 years, and he's sung on my records, and we've written, and I've played on his records. We'd never toured together, just timing and different people. And a year ago, I was visiting with him, and he told me that he had retired from performing because his hands didn't work anymore. And being a, big shot, I said, well, you can still sing, right? I'll play your guitar parts. And about a few months later, he took me up on that. So he taught me all of his tunings and all the guitar parts, and we put an amazing band together with Chris Stills, so Stephen Stills' son, singing the Stephen Stills parts, and I was singing the Graham Nash parts, and we had Dean Parks and Hutch Hutchinson from Bonnie's band, and so on, and James Raymond, his son, and Steve DeSanslo, his drummer for the last 29 years. Anyway, we're in rehearsal. We were supposed to play our first gig last week, and right in the middle of that, it just shows you. He talked to him Tuesday night, and Wednesday night he was gone. So it's a sad thing, but on the other hand, I will say that he went out really happy. He was going to go back on the road. He felt young again, and I guess that's all. I mean, I'll say one thing about it. He kept joking. He goes, "Well, now that I have a band again, I can die on the road, which I always wanted to do." And I said, "Well, just don't die before the first gig." And being a smart ass, he went ahead and did.
And Russ, I want to turn to you, who had a 50-plus year friendship with David, and if you would just sort of reflect on that, please.
Yeah, I'll tell you a quick story. About a month ago, maybe a little more than a month ago, I was driving home from a meeting, and David just came into my mind, and I called him from my car. And I had been thinking a lot about all the great artists that participated in this documentary, and I started either writing emails or calling them and thanking them for being a part of it, like James and Carol and Don, and I hadn't spoken to David yet, so I called him basically just to thank him for taking the time to do the interview and be part of this documentary, and for all the kind things that he had to say. And I woke him up from a nap and told him that. I told him the reason I was calling, and he was so moved. he said that you just made my week. He said that was such a sweet thing to do, and I don't know why I called him on that day. I don't know whatever powers that be moved me to call him, but I kind of got to say my piece with him, you know, prior to anything happening. And you know, I met David in 1967. Like you saw in the documentary, my band was playing at the Whiskey A Go Go, and we were opening for the Byrds, and we've been dear friends ever since. And my life and my career would not be where it is right now without the help and mentoring of David Crosby, and I miss him very much.
And I want to end with one question to anybody. Does Waddy Wachtel own a long sleeve shirt at all? He does?
He
Very
does.
funny. I
Yes.
never
Takes
thought
it
about
off.
We didn't see it.
He owns it, but he plays 3 songs in it and he takes it off.
That's
Then
really-
it's gone. If you would, please help me to say thank you to these wonderful
Thank you,
gentlemen.
guys.
Russ Kunkel, Denny Tedesco,
Thank you,
Steve
Boulder.
Postel, Dan over there also. All of them with the immediate family. Thank you, guys.